Deputy Speaker, it does not talk about cost of energy. It does not talk about mortgage repayments. It does not talk about rents. It does not talk about the cost of fuel, the increasing costs at the supermarket checkout, the increasing costs of insurance premiums. It does not talk about the fact that real wages have dropped under the Albanese Labor government.
The motion be agreed to, and I call the member for Hughes.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I rise to speak about this motion that deals with cost of living. And at the outset, I will say that it is refreshing to see a member of the Albanese Labor government who now actually wants to bring forward a discussion on the cost of living. However, with all respect to the member for Hasluck, this motion does not deal with the issues on cost of living that I'm hearing throughout my electorate. What is not being spoken about in this motion is telling. It does not talk about Australian families struggling daily with the escalating cost of living that has been occurring since May last year. Deputy Speaker, it does not talk about cost of energy. It does not talk about mortgage repayments. It does not talk about rents. It does not talk about the cost of fuel, the increasing costs at the supermarket checkout, the increasing costs of insurance premiums. It does not talk about the fact that real wages have dropped under the Albanese Labor government. It does not talk about productivity and what plan the government has, if any, to address productivity. It does not talk overall about what the government's intention is to combat inflation. And if we turn to some of these headline issues, Deputy Speaker, Australians are now paying more than ever for their electricity. There is still no effective energy plan. The energy plan that has been introduced by Minister Bowen, instead of delivering the $275 promised cut, Australians are now paying at least 15% more on their energy costs than they were paying 1 year ago. There is no sign of any reduction in gas costs, which are up 14% on latest data. Fuel prices continue to climb, with unleaded petrol typically past $2 a litre. In my electorate, in the electorate of Hughes, I have not been able to find a service station where we can purchase petrol for under $2.36, Deputy Speaker. And these rates are significantly higher in the regions. In my electorate, we have a third of my electorate hold a mortgage. An average Australian family with a mortgage of $750,000 is now paying $22,000 more a year than they were just a year ago. And the Albanese Labor government has not said what it is going to do to help these Australians. Australians in private rents are paying on average at least 15% more than they were a year ago. And it's not just an economic Deputy Speaker, the government needs to put forward a back-to-basics economic agenda that will put fighting inflation and driving productivity growth at its centre. Inflation, over-regulation and low productivity are the main problems now facing the Australian economy. So, Deputy Speaker, when we turn to productivity, Deputy Speaker, we are now in what is called a per capita recession. That means that we've had 2 quarters where growth per person, growth per Australian is negative. Outside of the pandemic, Deputy Speaker, this is the first per capita recession we've had since the mid-2000s. This means that economic output per person is going backwards. And we've heard nothing from the Albanese Labor government. What assistance is it going to give to business for this? What assistance is it going to give to increase the productivity of all Australians? This is what Australian families and businesses are feeling every day. It's what people in my electorate of Hughes have been telling me as I've been moving around the electorate. And it's not just an economic issue, the cost of living pressures. It's also a social issue, Deputy Speaker. Lifeline and Beyond Blue are now reporting that over 80% of calls are being made by Australians saying that they are suffering from cost of living stress and personal debt. So, Deputy Speaker, this has now moved beyond just an economic argument. It must now be something that this government needs to address. It needs to address it quickly. It needs to stop being distracted by other issues and stop trying to distract Australians, because Australians know what their real issue is, and their real issue, Deputy Speaker, is cost of living.
I thank the member. The question is